Okay, it is the 19th of June, and I'm in Arizona. It's about 8:15. I just sent off video number one, which is 15 minutes. I don't know if that file is ever going to make it. But anyway, I wanted to just make another video this evening, which won't be so chronological. I just think I want to call this one Attributes of Tall. So obviously that leads me into the very first topic, all of his pseudonames, and I only know a few of them. I mean, really, for some reason, he decided that he was going to have names other than L. Michael Tompkins, stage names, I guess. I do remember Errol LaGrange, and he published his papers and his books on LaGrange Press, which was basically him publishing his own stuff. There was a point where he thought that Guy Philippe Bidet was a great name until I told him that it was gross and nobody wanted to hear that name, but he insisted on using Guy Philippe Bidet for quite some time. He then sort of settled on Tall Fescue for a long time, and I guess that was sort of the most reoccurring stage name that he had. And he liked to give everybody else stage names. Of course, Parcel and Yvonne had her own stage name, and I'm not sure if Eric had one, but I remember Joe was Big and Dumb as a Man Can Come, which wasn't too flattering and probably didn't put him in great stead with Joe. Michelle, my wife, is Stella Montagna. Clearly, as Mike told her name, he looked at her boobs, which was clearly why she was Montagna. So Mike didn't have any problems with that. My stepdaughter, Stacy, was Stella Broadmoor. Charlemagne Broadmoor. I was, before 2001, or 9/11, excuse me, I was Habib Hogan. And then because we didn't really care for 9/11, I ended up becoming Duke. And then it kind of just went right back to my high school name, Nord. And everybody sort of in the Tompkins family knew me as Nord. So Mike really had a thing about giving everybody a stage name. And I'm sure he did at Garcia's and other places that he frequented. Everybody got their own stage name. That was kind of unique. Another unique characteristic, and this is not chronological, but really his work ethic. This is something that's really kind of a conundrum. From the first time I met him, Mike had a job. Even before he was a teenager, he worked in his dad's store in Martinez on Saturdays and I think maybe Sundays. He would always go to Martinez and work. I don't know if he was in the back stocking shelves or exactly what. In high school, he worked at Boero's, which was a sporting goods store in Walnut Creek. And my dad really loved Mike. They had a wonderful relationship. And wherever Mike worked, my dad would go and buy whatever Mike was selling. Mike would call him on the phone and say, "Mr. Nord, I've got something here. Think you need to get it." "All right, Mike, I'll be right down." And so my dad would go down, and especially at Christmas time, he would buy one of everything for Jerry and I for Christmas at Boero's. The other thing, when he was in junior college, he worked at Montgomery Ward's in Pleasant Hill. And of course, my dad, every Saturday or Sunday when Mike was working, Mike would have a special deal on something at Montgomery Ward's. Call my dad, "Mr. Nord, got something for you." And my dad would go down there and every time would buy it. And we had shelves of stuff that Dad bought from Mike at Montgomery Ward's. And he always, the interesting thing about Mike is he had this tremendous work ethic all the way dating back into being a young guy. But the other thing was, as he was older, he described himself as an Okie. And he said, about Okies, they work until they have enough money to get along for a while, then they quit. And then they run out of money and they go to work again. And I think there's a period in his life where that really was true. he wasn't really concerned about making money. And another characteristic, he was good at it when he wanted to, but it wasn't a high priority like was for me and a lot of people in baby boomer generation. So that was always kind of interesting to me. And he would appreciate people that had strong work ethics and always had a job. And he and I would talk about that. And when I had my consulting firm, if I wasn't working one day in a week, I would be wondering why and trying to fix that. And Mike, it didn't seem to bother him, and he would get to the point where he thought maybe he needed some money, and he would get himself a job and do really well at it. So that was interesting. His employment out at Davis in the executive program, that was another link in our relationship. He was in charge of this executive program where he invited guest speakers to come in and talk to groups of executives, mainly in the government, but not necessarily only in the California government, but groups of executives, and he would put on this 2 or 3 or 4 day seminar. And frequently I would come out and I would take one day of it and I would do my thing, and he was really good at that. He had great rapport, not only with the staff at Davis, but with the clients. And there was almost, he didn't treat them like they were special customers. He treated them like they were good friends. And so he would hassle them and he would give them stage names. And again, he was on stage with them. And that was always an amazing skill and trait that Mike had. Let's see what else I want to say around attributes, personality attributes. I guess I want to go into sort of road trips, and I'm going to talk about this for about 3 or 4 minutes. This video file is not so large. So while we were at DVC, we took a bunch of road trips. One of the road trips we took was up to the Napa Valley, and we got a really nice hotel in the Napa Valley, and it was I think it was kind of a resort, because the room that he rented was a separate bungalow. And we walked into the lobby, and it was a big, beautiful lobby with a grand piano, a wine bar, a cheese bar, and lots of people milling around. We walked up to the front desk, and there was a college girl there, and she said, "May I help you?" And Mike said, "Yes," in a loud voice, louder than absolutely necessary. He says, "We have 2 heterosexual men in one room, 2 beds." And she goes, "Oh, okay, Mr. Tompkins, that's fine. I hear that. So you want to have 1 room, 2 beds for 2 of you?" And he says, "Yes, 1 room, 2 beds, 2 heterosexual males." And she said, "Yes, sir, we have a nice room with 2 queens." And he says, "Don't say the word queen." He said that so loud that the piano stopped and everybody looked at us. And this poor college girl behind the desk just about fainted. So one of the attributes is he liked to put people on, put them in embarrassing situations, speak loud so that everybody hears him, and just see what the response was. He would do that like nobody else I've ever met. So that was one of many. I'll give you one more before we're at the 10-minute point here. Took a road trip to Vegas. Love to take our road trips. Sitting in a bar. Now, one thing about your dad, he flirted wherever he went with women. That's about as far as it went, as far as I know, but he just flirted, loved to flirt. So I was always ready for this. I was married. He was, I guess, he and Elba were married, but he still loved to flirt. So we were sitting at this casino at the bar and having a drink, and these 2 really nice looking women sat down right next to us. And so we didn't say anything to them, and all of a sudden she says to me, "Well, what are you guys doing here?" And I said, before I could say anything, Mike turned to them and said, "Look, we're just trying to have a drink. So if that's okay." And I'm thinking, what? Who is this Tompkins? How come he's not flirting with these girls? So they said, "Oh, I'm so sorry.